Greetings. It is I, Gene Richmond, and welcome to the Brutal Truth. Now, folks, this is a domain where we speak openly and candidly, and I give you all the inner workings of my thoughts about today's topics, such as social, political, economic, and all sorts of issues that tempt and mankind are faced with each and every day. This is the Brutal Truth. This is my corner, and we're going to talk about it, folks. Let's talk about it. So let's get right into it. Now, there's so many things that we have to talk about, but I pick and choose some of the little delectable pieces. Now, we know right now that our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, has a book out. And from the research and what we understand, this book has hit the New York Times bestsellers list. It's #1. It's called Becoming the Memoirs of a First Lady, Michelle Obama's first tell-all book about her life. Growing up in the inner city of Chicago, to her rise in academia, to becoming a lawyer, and then heading off to the White House in Washington and all the trials and tribulations of her husband, the quasi-Muslim Hawaiian first African-American President Barack Obama. So now, in this book, Michelle says some very interesting thing in the book Becoming. She was labeled as the angry black woman. She had the angry black woman syndrome. So now, Michelle, I want to ask you this. Since you have so much contempt for America and the people in this country that labeled you an angry black woman, you held the highest position in American politics as a woman, being the wife of the president of the United States. You were the #2 figure in that White House, not being figure essentially politically, but of American influence. But then you go on to say, well, it was all these racist folks that called me a hater. When they go low, you go high, and all this good stuff. Michelle, I'm not buying it. You've been hiding out since your husband left the White House, taking little jabs at the great Donald Trump and his presidency, and now you want to come out since you want to sell books and talk about how mean and racist everybody was to you. If it was that bad, you would have never gotten to the position that you were. About those evil, racist people that try to keep you back. You know what? I am going to read an excerpt from the book Memoir from Michelle Obama. And I quote, I was female, black and strong, which to certain people translated only to angry. I was another damaging cliche, one that's been forever used to sweep minority women to the perimeter of every other room. I was now starting to actually feel a bit angry, which then made me feel worse, as if I were fulfilling some prophecy laid out for me by the haters. She reportedly writes in her memoir, I'd learned anything from the ugliness of the campaign, from the myriad of ways people had sought to write me off as angry or unbecoming. It was the public judgment sweeps to fill any void. I knew that I would never allow myself to get that banged up, she reportedly writes. So let's get this straight here, Michelle. Now, you're writing a book about the contention of people in America labeling you as this angry, out of control black woman. But then again, on the other side, we didn't hear anything from you since you left the White House. But now the book comes out. Now you want to lament and talk about how awful everybody was to you. We're not buying this, Michelle. We know that you wore your husband's balls right around your neck. You were the one calling the shots in there. Your ballless, feeble husband sat up in there, cow-toed, did what he had to do, which was nothing. And now you came back and tell me that, I didn't feel liked. I was labeled as the angry black woman. Well, okay, you were labeled as the angry black woman. Who do you think voted you into the White House? I mean, let's be realistic here. The majority of the vote, where did you think it came from? Did you think it was all Hispanics? Did you think it was all blacks that voted you in? Newsflash, Michelle, I believed your husband got into the White House primarily because of the white vote. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but the so-called haters, the so-called racist folks that you talk about were probably the ones that got you into that White House that you believe to be who they are. But I digress. So the book is doing well. It's #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. So what does that tell you about good old Michelle? It tells you that Michelle knows how to settle books. She knows how to sell them and do what she has to do, folks. And Michelle, I'm here to tell you something right now. I see through it, and most Americans see through it. You ain't nothing but a man-looking hussy who was in the White House taking advantage of all the. I'm sure when you left the White House, you stole the silverware, you took the comforters, you took the sheets and everything else and stuffed it in your bag. And that's what you Southside Chicago folks do. So Michelle, coming directly from the brutal truth, we see all through your propaganda book. And that's the brutal truth. I get on a little rant sometimes because the topics excite me. They make me feel real good to talk about it. And, you know, talking and being on that subject, we want to talk about also the level of radical feminism that we have in the mainstream. Because I think Michelle Obama and many like her are using this Me Too movement style environment that we're in to project this kind of girl power idea into the fabric, just to sell their books, just to get on their speaking engagements and push their movies. I mean, look at films nowadays. Look how Hollywood injects social engineering into movies and television. We got movies like the recent film that just came out, Widows, with Viola Davis. I believe the plot of this film is a bunch of women whose husbands were criminals. Now they're all dead, and now they gotta do a heist and rob everybody and become action heroes. But the thing is, these feminist films don't do as well. We have that movie Widows. We also have Ocean's 8, I believe, that came out a few months ago. And we also had last year's, I believe it was 2 years ago, the Ghostbusters remake with a cast full of women. Now, I'm not saying women can't be in movies. I'm not trying to be sexist. That's not what I'm trying to do. But they want to portray this, you know, this whole thing as the woman action star can be comparable or even better to the male. I don't think that's the case, because the numbers, when you go to the movie theaters and you look at the box office, these movies don't do so well. And it's not me saying it. The numbers are saying it. Again, we look at this film, the woman is always the badass. She's the one that's walking in and beating up a room full of guys. What was that movie with Angelina Jolie that came out a couple years ago? The woman walked into a room and beat up a room full of 80 guys. Now it's a film, it's fantasy, I get it. It's not real, but you're not gonna draw a crowd to films that way. All those feminist films fail miserably. Why? Not because it's women in them, because you want people to believe this idea, Mr. Hollywood, mainstream, liberal media, that the woman action hero is the hero of tomorrow, and it just doesn't work. Can a woman be in an action film? Absolutely. But if you want to move away the role of the traditional man action hero, you're not going to be able to do it, because both men and women want to see that badass male action hero figure, not a bunch of women on stage beating up a room of 250 guys. Granted, it's fantasy, but people don't buy into it like they do to traditional, conventional films. And that's just part of what they do in Hollywood. If you look at television, you look at the superhero shows, they everything is infused with SJW propaganda, ideas, things, and views. You look at the shows like Arrow, The Flash. I was watching everything is diversity filled, girl power, us against them ideas. And that's what they want to project to you. And if you don't And if you don't see things the way they do and the pattern the way they do it, they outcast you and make you seem like your views, if not parallel to theirs, or something wrong, or you're a hater, or hate speech, or things of that nature. And the people who don't know any better fall right into it because they believe that, you see, TV and film are like the litmus test. They're like the beta test. They test the propaganda out in the films, in the stories, in the movies before they put it out into the public, and people watch it, and the feeble minds, they suck into it and they believe it. So again, that's the brutal truth when it comes to talking about things like that. Hollywood TV producers, I want to tell you something. I see through what you guys are doing. I see to what's going on, and I want everybody else to see what else is going on, because again, the social engineering thing won't be broken unless people awake. They wake up and they see what's happening. Don't let some film producer, don't let some storyline writers have you to think that they know the be all end all to what you should believe. It's not what you think it is. Think for yourself. Hollywood is going to tell you that if you're not into the whole SJW thing, you're a racist. If you don't want open borders, you're a xenophobe. And if you don't support an all-woman cast action film, you're a misogynist. That is not true. Think for yourself. And Hollywood, I got a message for you. That's coming from me. That's coming from the brutal truth. And that's what it is. You see, folks, I really enjoy this. And this is why I get animated. You're probably telling yourself, Gene, number 9, calm down. I don't want to calm down. These are the topics I want to talk about. This is the stuff that you people want to hear. You want to tell me to calm down. You might want to tell me to take a breather, maybe bring it down a couple of notches, but I can't do it. I love this. I love coming to you. I love bringing it out to you, talking about these topics for you, the stuff that you folks want to hear. Now you call me on it. You reached out to me via social media. You reached out to me via email. You told me what you wanted to hear. You told me what you wanted to talk about. And now I'm talking about it, folks. This is the brutal truth.